James Gunn hasn't even released one movie in his DC universe, but he is already being labeled a hypocrite, full of double standards and destined to fail. But what is the real deal with all of this? Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Pagey here once again. So while James Gunn, has been involved directly with the, two DC projects so far over the past handful of years, those of course being, the Suicide Squad back in 2021 and Peacemaker towards the beginning of 2022, he is now going to be at the forefront of the DC universe as a creative mind alongside Peter Safran, and he's going to be behind everything that we see for the foreseeable future, starting officially sometime next year with Creature Commandos, an animated series on HBO Max. Shortly followed by Waller, which will follow on from the ending of Peacemaker Season 1, and then the big boy in blue who's going to be rolling around in 2025, just be the focus of everything, I guess you could say, with Superman Legacy when that hits screens in, I think it's July of 2025. And of course, that's going to be depending on delays based off the current strikes that are going on, because I was meant to start filming at the beginning of next year, but if these strikes keep going, that might get delayed a bit. But recently we did get the news from Wonder Woman herself, that of course being Gal Gadot, that from what she understands, herself alongside James Gunn and Peter Safran, the co-heads of DC Studios, will be developing a third Wonder Woman film after Wonder Woman 1984 at the end of 2020. Now this comes about half a year, but just 6-7 months or something like that, after Wonder Woman 3's development was halted after Patty Jenkins, the director of the first two films, had her plans not really line up with what James Gunn and Peter Safran had in mind over there for their own, DC universe. So following this, many thought this would just be it, and this would lead into a completely new Wonder Woman, a recast, everything like that. Just like we've already had with Superman, with David Corenswet replacing Henry Cavill as the cinematic version of Superman, and Ben Affleck being replaced by another actor in the near future for the upcoming Batman Brave and the Bold film directed by The Flash's Andy Muschietti. However, Ben Affleck had already sort of left the role, so he wasn't really effectively being replaced, unlike Henry Cavill, who sort of wanted to keep being Superman, and then was said, hey, no, we're going in a different direction, so effectively he was properly replaced. But to some, this Gal Gadot news has caused a decent amount of confusion, but also some uproar, which surprised me quite a lot. When did people start hating Gal Gadot? Now, the thing with this is that at this point, James Gunn has not commented on what Gal Gadot had to say in that interview. Now, this is probably because of the strikes going on, and James I just guess he can't talk about stuff that's in development and just overall upcoming productions, whether or not they include an actor or not. So at the moment, we are just going to have to go off what Gal Gadot is saying, which, could be for the better or for the worse. I'm not too sure. But many people feel like it is hypocritical. That is the term being used. That is the word being used. Hypocritical to get rid of Henry Cavill as Superman and Ben Affleck as Batman, but keep Gal Gadot around as Wonder Woman, the only surviving member of that trinity. Like, a lot of people feel that's hypocritical. And this goes alongside characters like Amanda Waller, Peacemaker, even like Blue Beetle and the supporting cast of Peacemaker as well. But alongside keeping them, you replace everyone else that's in the DC universe, at least from what we know so far. And then to go on, call this a reboot when it's not really a reboot because you're keeping all these people. So a lot of people feel like it's hypocritical and it's picking and choosing and stuff like that. But that is the big thing here. That's not what it is. It isn't hypocritical. Like, hypocritical is saying like, oh, you should really stop drinking alcohol. It's not good for you. And then you walk down the street and you see the same guy at the pub. Like, it's just like, hold on. You just tell me yesterday to stop drinking alcohol and you are guzzling 2 schooners down. Like, what's going on? So it's not hypocritical what James Gunn is doing or saying. If you really want to put it in any sort of like negative way, or if you want to push it far, it's like maybe double standards, or even if you want to push it a bit further, it's a bit of a contradiction if you want to put it. Hypocrisy just is not the right word to use, and I'm not even joking. Hypocrite was trending the other day on Twitter following the Gal Gadot thing with Wonder Woman. Hypocrite, the word hypocrite. I don't think I've ever seen the word hypocrite trend or be talked about this much, but the other day on Twitter when the Gal Gadot thing came out, hypocrite, and I don't know if hypocrisy was, but hypocrite was. And I understand. People are frustrated with what's happening with DC. People don't want to see their favorite characters swapped up and changed, and I think it would be weird if you just dismissed what people feel in regards to that. People love these characters. But James Gunn has said pretty much from the get-go when he took over towards the end of last year, that some things would stay the same and some things would change, and just that, they'd recast and stuff. It was always going to be on what they felt like, that worked in the previous iteration of the DC movies and what didn't work. That's literally what they were going to do, or even like what they like. They go, hey, this character might not have worked in a movie, but we like it, so we're going to use it in what we're planning. They might not get another movie, but we're still going to use this character for what we have planned. And to be honest, I think James Gunn has been pretty consistent in regards to peddling that message. I don't think he's really swapped up on it that much, at least to this point. But at the same time, I think he knows there will be some very like microscopic criticism and detailing over what he does going forward, especially when it comes with characters that he's changing up, like a Superman, for example, or a Batman. Because people will be looking at it and looking at these films or these projects and going, did you really have to change that? Does this really have to be a different actor? Why couldn't you use Henry Cavill? It's going to be a big thing that happens, especially when Superman Legacy comes out and even just the build up to it. Like, you just know it's going to be the case. And one big question or big statement is going to be, was it worth it? Was it really worth it? And the question as to whether it was worth it, will be up for debate whenever that time comes. You just know it's going to be the case. But, with the recent box office for these DC films of recent, you can sort of understand why a rebrand that James Gunn is doing, not necessarily a full-on reboot, but a rebrand is needed. But it will be a wait and see as to what's going to happen, because we could be sitting here 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, whatever it might be, and we could just be sitting here and they're in the exact same position as they are now, maybe even worse off. But I don't think that will be the case. I'd be very, very surprised if that is the case, but you never know. You can't be too confident of things going forward, especially that far into the future. But in regards to James Gunn's, rebrand or soft reboot of the DC live action universe, like, does it have a strong or a decent base to stand off of and, push forward from? And I guess mainly build into something special, but more importantly, something successful business-wise and actually generates money, where Warner Brothers is like, hey, we're loving what you're doing. Keep coming. Keep it coming. And I think the answer to that at this point is yes. I think it has to be a simple yes, because he's changing things up. So it's a bit of a different, new thing. So you just have to go, yes, he's starting with Superman. There seems to be a lot of positivity around it for the most part. So I think the simple answer to that is yes. And I think James Gunn will build a universe that does take some risks, which I don't mind. I like the fact you take some risks. I mean, we're already seeing that with a movie like The Authority being announced, and that's in development. That is that's a huge risk. Even regular DC readers would have no idea of who the hell the Authority was this time last year. But sometimes you need to take those risks. I mean, James Gunn made his name by Marvel taking their biggest risk at the time, which of course was, Guardians of the Galaxy. But those risks have to deliver results. And that will be the interesting thing to monitor over the next handful of years, especially once those risky movies or TV shows maybe start falling out or, coming out, but mainly the movies, because that's where, the numbers really represent themselves. However, one thing I do see James Gunn doing, which is something I would do as well if I was ever in that position, not going to happen, but if I was ever in that position as well, this is something I would do also, which James Gunn appears to be doing as well, is that if something does not work, like a movie, don't just discard it and never touch it again. You are building a universe, so let it be a part of your world. So for example, Blue Beetle, that comes out in the next week or so, or whatever it is. And the box office estimations and predictions for that movie, they're not too good. I mean, I'm not going to be able to take part in those box office numbers because it doesn't come out until the middle of September, like a month later. Crazy. But yeah, Australia and New Zealand, we don't get it for a month after it comes out everywhere else in the world. So we won't be a part of those instant box office numbers, unfortunately. But yeah, it would be a shock if that movie made enough money where anyone in the studio would be thinking let's get a sequel of this into development. That's just probably not going to happen. So I think it would be a surprise, at least based off what we know at this point, that a Blue Beetle 2 is ever going to exist, at least from what we know so far. However, that's the big thing. That doesn't mean that the character just goes away or should go away and should not come back. You use that character in other projects going forward, whatever they might be. The same can go with Shazam. Shazam 2 just, was a flop, but it doesn't mean you can't use the character. You can use Shazam in other projects or other characters' movies, whether it is a Justice Society of America film, like it's set up in the end credits of Shazam 2 or whatever it might be. Just not everything is going to be a box office, success. It's just not going to happen. That's just not the way that the world, revolves around. But what's featured in that movie can be a very good supporting character for your universe and the story you're trying to tell. So you don't just discard them, as I was saying before. But of course, there are going to be some characters that a lot of people think that wouldn't work, that can lead a movie and can lead a successful movie. You just don't know. And that's why risks are important. You need to try things. You just need to see what the audience will take in, what they respond to and what they don't respond to. Of course, timing is very important as well, but you just never know what characters are lying there that could be successful. I think most people are sitting there saying The Authority probably not going to do well. It could come out and make a lot of money and be very, very successful. That's a wait and see. stranger things have happened. And the last thing to really talk about is that it's also about finding the right medium for the specific project in question. Like, whether that's movie or TV and live action, or just maybe TV but with animation, like we're seeing with Creature Commandos. Peacemaker, for example, was a very successful TV show. There's no doubting that. Like, it was very well, watched, and it performed very well on HBO Max at the time. But if that story was a movie, it might have flopped, and then we would all be thinking, "Oh yeah, there's no desire for Peacemaker or any of these other characters and stuff. Let's move on." Like, that would be the thinking in the past. But sometimes you have to find that right medium, and TV was the perfect choice for Peacemaker, that story, and those characters. So, like, Booster Gold, for example, is an upcoming TV show for this new DC universe, and I think that's the perfect medium for that character to start off at. TV. It works perfectly, and you can even argue using TV to introduce and explore the Green Lantern side of this universe early on, at least, is smart as well. Especially when you look at like the 2011 movies box office performance. It's just like, hey, is the world ready for Green Lantern in the cinema? Who knows? But then again, here's the most important thing: how you want to tell your story. How you want to tell your story in the right medium to tell your story is always of great importance as well. That's why that story that Peacemaker told was sort of made for TV, and letting it play out over all those episodes rather than a 2.5 hour movie. That could be the exact same thing for Lanterns, for Booster Gold. But then you look at the Authority, and just having a movie is the right way to do it. Have like an action-packed 2.5 hour movie is the right way to tell that story. So it's all going to come down to picking the right medium and the right thing for each individual project, whether it is in live action on movie or TV, or maybe even in animation on TV, and maybe even movies as well. So yeah, the next like 3 years probably with this whole thing is going to be very interesting. Obviously, it starts in like 2 years, or it's meant to start in 2 years. Who knows if it probably, well, actually, technically it starts next year with Creature Commandos, but in regards to the live action sense, it's like end of next year, maybe with Waller, and then the movie sense in 2 years with Superman Legacy. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. But I think a lot of this noise around the like hypocrisy and double standards and picking and choosing and contradictions and stuff, it's just going to be an echo that goes along with this, I think, for a while. I think it's just going to be there for a while until maybe James Gunn releases the movie and it quietens people up. But I think even if something is successful, it's still not going to drown those noises down. I mean, we're dealing with the guy who made the Suicide Squad, which I think most people have in their top 3 or 4 DCEU movies, then Peacemaker, which most people liked. So if there's not enough faith in the guy that did that, just to at least see what he's got planned and what he will do, then I don't think anyone can have that much faith. You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting. I'm on board. I've bought a ticket to the James Gunn ride. Let's just hope it lives up to the hype. That's all I'm asking for. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome. Drop a like on it, show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts on this. Do you have any issues or worries with what James Gunn is doing? Do you find, keeping Gal Gadot potentially around, and even like, Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, John Cena as Peacemaker, some of those supporting cast members for Peacemaker, keeping Blue Beetle, do you find that hypocritical? Or are you just like, hey, he knows it's his universe, he gets to build it how he wants, whether it's keeping certain people, getting rid of certain people? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.